So welcome back. Hope you are good. So today we have FOMC, but FOMC is at 7 p.m. London time zone, so I can put a trade today, but I need to close the position before 7 p.m. because I don't like to have trades during FOMC because of the volatility. But let's see. So my plans for today are these. I really expect a bullish reaction after a sweep of this New York low of 2 days ago. So because it's the last low, I really think that we'll have a reaction because the liquidity is there. So we are going down to grab the liquidity. We today also had the GDP news, so gold just dropped a lot. So we have swept a lot of lows. We manipulated also the highs of session of the Asian session at the London session, and we had a big drop. If I traded the London session, I would have a very good trade, but I do not trade the London session. So let's see. I want a sweep of this low on the New York session, and then if I find an entry, I'll try to find break of structure, inverse fair value gaps, and I'll try to entry at a good fair value gap after break of structure and inverse fair value gap. So let's see, the price has swept the low at on TradingView but not on TradeWalker, so must be a bug, but let's see if I find a good entry here, if I find reactions of bullish order flow, and if I see that bearish PD arrays are getting disrespected, I might enter. I know that the Asian high got swept and we are bearish today, but this is the last low and we swept this one New York session. So taking shorts right here, I think it's not a good idea because risk reward for the upside is way better. So I'll try to find long. So if I find a trade, I'll take. If I do not find, I'll not take. So in the end of the video, I'll be back to talk a little bit about today's price action and today's trade if I take a trade. So like and subscribe and see you in the end. has hit my stop loss, so not what I wanted, but I followed my strategy. I did the things that I had to. So let's talk a little bit about why I took this trade and why I had so much confidence on this trade. So when the New York market opened, we were already very bearish. We were very bearish. We swept, and then we opened. We swept this low, and I was expecting a bullish reversal after a sweep of that low because we're the last low and had a lot of liquidity there. And I did not thought that we needed to go lower to grab even more liquidity. I thought that we had enough liquidity here to continue going higher, and because of that, after this sweep, I I like the sweep and I entered. So where did I enter? I entered at this fair value gap. So here we broke structure here, we mitigated this bullish fair value gap, so far very bullish, and then we reclaimed this inverse fair value gap, this level that was acting as a resistance. So another bearish PD array that was disrespected, turning in a bullish one. And then when we did that, we created this bullish fair value gap. We had another one here, but for the risk reward, I put my entry here because I like to put when I'm long, I like to take and put my entries at discount, and we were at discount on equilibrium here, and I just put my entry here. MetaTrader filled my entry a little bit above, not the best, but it is what it is. Then the price reacted, gone higher, but gone higher and then touched this bearish fair value gap that were disrespected here, touched here, and then we started going lower. Here we saw support here and gone higher, and we even got gone above break-even point. Here I thought about closing my position, but we were respecting bullish PD arrays. We here swept these lows, gone higher, and I really thought that we would continue going higher after reclaiming this level again, but that was just a fake out, and we gone lower, and we swept my stop loss. So here the things that I could have done better was that we did not add a 5-minute break of structure, as you can see a little bit above, and we would have gotten a break of structure. We did not add a break of structure because we were very bearish. I should have waited for a break of structure on the 5-minute time frame. We did not add a break of structure, and here the other fail that I committed was that we had a sweep here, and when we are very bearish and have sweeps here, but I was very bullish because of that sweep that we had, and because of that I ignored this sweep. I thought that this was just a sweep that will push price lower to my entry and then continue pushing higher, but I was wrong. So the things that I can improve are that when we are very bullish, I need to wait for a break of structure on the 5 minutes to have more confirmations. But yesterday we were we had basically this setup, and I remember that I put my entry here. The price just hit this and continue going higher. So I used what I learned yesterday and put in practice today, but we were wrong. So I will after this I will just journal and will backtest a little bit more to improve the strategy and improve my mental. So tomorrow I'll be back, of course. Tomorrow the market will give me more opportunities, so there's no reason to be sad today. We are down 2.5%, I think. We are down $230 on the 5k account, so not the best, but it's part of the process, and tomorrow I'll be back and we'll try to improve and follow my strategy. But in general, I followed my strategy, but I have a few fails and the market punished me. But I'll take that as a lesson. So tomorrow I'll be back. So like and subscribe, drop in the comments if you learned something with me, and like and subscribe, and see you tomorrow.